Hello and welcome to Hooray for Hollywood. My name is Wayne York, and today is not so much a celebration of Hollywood as the story of a hardworking actress in Hollywood and the career and life that became too much for her to deal with. This is the house where she lived, right there behind me, and up here is the Hollywood sign. And this is the story of Peg Entwistle. Robert and Emily Entwistle, Peg's mom and dad, traveled from London to Port Talbot, Wales, where Emily's family lived, in early 1908 to give birth to their daughter, Millicent Lillian Entwistle, who would later want to be called Peg. She was born on February 5th, 1908. Just as a side note, Anthony Hopkins was also born in Port Talbot, Wales in 1937, and Richard Burton later attended school there. Not long after her birth, the Entwistle family moved back to the London area where Millicent Peg Entwistle spent the early part of her life. When she was around the age of 2, her mother, Emily, and her father, Robert, divorced. There's no record as to why, but Robert was given full custody of their daughter. At that time, Robert was an actor and a stage manager, and in the fall of 1913, Robert was hired for a Broadway show. So Dad and daughter traveled to New York so Robert could begin rehearsals for The Beautiful Adventures, his Broadway acting debut. One of his fellow actors was Frank Morgan, who later went on to great fame as the Wizard in The Wizard of Oz. Robert's brother was Charles Entwistle, and he too was very much involved in the theater community as both an actor and a manager. Charles was married to an actress named Jane Ross. Peg's father met Jane's sister, Loretta Ross, and on July 29, 1914, they too were married. And the two brothers were married to the two sisters. And at 6 years old, Peg had a stepmother, and in the next few years, two brothers as well. Peg's father retired from the stage around 1917 and opened a unique stationery shop making custom gift boxes approximately 1 block away from Park Avenue in New York. His shop was called Box Mart. At 12 years old, Peg began her stage career in the title role of a school production of Peter Pan. She was determined to become an actor from that point on. Because of Uncle Charles's connections on Broadway, Peg had a backstage pass to many, if not all, theaters on Broadway. And in February 1921, the biggest hit on Broadway was a play called Peg, Oh My Heart, which she saw on opening night with her stepmom. At the age of 12, Millicent Lillian, which was her legal name, was so taken with the play, Peg, Oh My Heart, that she began to call herself Peg from that day on and asked everyone else to as well. Tragically, on April 2nd, 1921, when Peg was just 13 years old, her stepmother, Loretta, with whom Peg had grown very close, died of bacterial meningitis. Loretta was 35 years old. And as if that wasn't bad enough, just 18 months later, her father was returning from working at his store around 10 p.m. when he was struck by a hit-and-run vehicle while crossing Park Avenue. He did not survive the injuries, and he was buried next to his wife Loretta 3 days before Christmas. Uncle Charles and Aunt Jane agreed to raise the 3 children as their own. And because their doctor advised they move to a warmer climate due to the younger son's health issues, they decided to move the family to the West Coast, and in June 1923 found their new home at 2428 North Beechwood Drive in Los Angeles, California, very near Hollywood. In the early fall of 1923, as 15-year-old Peg and Aunt Jane were outside in their front yard of their Beechwood Drive home, reading and rehearsing plays aloud, they heard and saw multiple trucks rumbling up Beechwood Drive, carrying all the pieces to construct the Hollywoodland sign on the side of the nearby Mount Lee. Just as a side note, for those who may not know, the Hollywood sign used to read Hollywoodland, and it was built as an advertisement to sell real estate in that area. Each letter was 50 feet tall and 30 feet wide, and if this not enough, It was totally lit up by 4,000 light bulbs spaced 9 inches apart. And they flashed Holly, wood, land. It was meant to last about 18 months. Clearly, after numerous restorations, it has lasted a lot longer. And in 1949, the word land has been dropped, but that Hollywood sign is an iconic piece of Hollywood history and an American landmark. But back to Peg Entwistle. When she was 18, thanks to her wonderful talent and her drive and her Uncle Charles's connections, Peg was offered full-time work at the Repertory Theater of Boston with the Henry Jewett Players. So from November 1925 through May 1926, Peg did 14 plays in Repertory. She received many positive reviews for her work with the Repertory, including one from the Boston Globe for her work on Ibsen's The Wild Duck, which starred the excellent Blanche Yerka. The review said, "Yet even Blanche Yerka is outshadowed by the child. Peg Entwistle, young member of the Repertory Company, gave a magnificent interpretation of the innocent little girl." And you'll never guess who, at the age of 17, saw Peg Entwistle perform in a production of The Wild Duck with the Boston Repertory and was inspired to become an actress, but 17-year-old Betty Davis. She was quoted as saying to her mother after seeing the production, "I want to be exactly like Peg Entwistle." That's the end of part 1 of the Peg Entwistle story. Please come back again soon for part 2. See you then.